calling all educators with a passion for teaching and a health for faith. Get ready for a transformative journey with the Educators with Oil podcast, where host Ronnette Branham is dedicated to helping teachers become better through biblical strategies.
Hi, welcome to Educators with Oil. I'm your hostess, Ronnette Branham, here to offer biblical strategies for effective teaching. Thank you for joining us tonight. I am excited. I have a guest here tonight who is my principal of my school that I work at, and this is going to be an awesome episode. I am again glad you're here, and I will bring to the forefront Mrs. Talaya Stoddard-Wilson. Hi, Mrs. Wilson. How are you? No. Are you on mute?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. So again, I'm excited about this. I'm a little not stressed out, a little nervous, a little bit. But I thank you for coming and coming and agreeing to be on the show today. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Sure. Well, wait a minute. I'm somehow I lost my thing. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So my name is Talaya Wilson. I currently am the principal of Patton J. Hill Elementary School in Trenton, New Jersey. I am a lifelong resident of Trenton, New Jersey. I went to the Trenton Public Schools from kindergarten through high school. I'm a proud graduate of Rider University, at that time Rider College, and went on to get two master's degrees, one in curriculum instruction with a specialization in technology and the other in educational leadership. I am a mother of four, grandmother of three, and a wife to a Mr. Ambrose Wilson.
Oh, nice. Okay, so you said technology. So you were, what is that? That's like IT type?
Not so much as IT, but it shows you how to use, at that time, technology was like the up and coming thing, like the chats and things like that. So it was showing you how to use the technology in curriculum. Um, and again, back then when I was getting that master's, it was just when the internet was first being introduced. And if both masters were online, so even that in itself was like a learning experience. So it was kind of the new evolution with technology, and it was just a way to help educators learn how to use, the technology into the curriculum that they were that they were using, I guess, in their district or in their work.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant that was a separate, not education. Oh, okay, I get it now. Yeah. We did have to learn how to use that technology for the classroom. I can appreciate that. So with that, you were a teacher for a while. How long were you a teacher?
I was a teacher for about um, maybe 15 years, maybe. So teacher, and then kind of transitioned to a teacher leader, where I still was working with children. So about 15 years.
Oh, okay.
hmm
So that means you have a doctorate in education.
Not quite, not quite, but I've had some experiences. Unfortunately, I only taught two grade levels, which was
Oh,
third grade, and I taught 1 year in kindergarten, and that really was a very rewarding experience. Yeah, and then after I did that 1 year in kindergarten, then I went on to like teacher leadership. So I was a instructional coach. I was a reading coach to staff members, and also supported students as well.
okay, I like that. So, with that experience, I said that because first I said that because teachers, once you've been teaching for a long time, I think we should have honorary doctorates, and it's not really honorary; it's more earned. So that's how I feel about that. But because we become experts in our field, every
Absolutely.
year is something new, but we are overall we could teach it.
Once a
So
teacher, always a teacher.
yes. So how does that affect your leadership style as far as it is? Because you're a principal of teachers, and we are some people. So how does that your experience affect your leadership um, or
So one
drive
of
it?
the things that I think is very important in order to be able to kind of lead in this capacity, you have to have had experience. You cannot support and encourage and guide teachers if you have not yourself done the work. And so my transition, if I only worked in Trenton, so let's be clear. So for the last 34 years, I've been in the Trenton Public Schools. So I've kind of transitioned from student to teacher to administration. And so my experience as a teacher really helped me to understand the job of a classroom teacher and not to be so far removed. And so that it helps me to, when teachers have issues with students, with parents, because I've kind of had that experience, I'm able to give a level of support with context. I always call it like street cred, right? It's important that you have some street credibility with your staff so that they feel like they're being led by someone who is experienced and knowledgeable. Um, I've heard that in some spaces where teachers are led by administrators that have not really walked the walk, sometimes it creates a disconnect and it becomes um, a very like managerial uh, work environment, if you will. So we're just managing people as opposed to supporting people. So I think my experience really just gives me that extra lens to know how to deal with people in spaces that I've also worked.
Yeah, it does. We can tell if a principal has been in the classroom or has been in there any length of time. So how long have you been a principal?
So I've been in I was a vice principal for uh, maybe 6 years. Oh, what year? How many years is this? Um, oh, 2008, I think I became a vice principal. And then I did that for 5 years. So then I was a principal for, I guess, about 11, 12 years now. But
Oh, okay.
time has gone by so quickly. Wow.
It is. So, do you still feel that connection, or is it because you actually go into the classrooms that helps you to really stay connected? Because being out, we got a lot of paperwork. You have a lot of paperwork, a lot of meetings and things like that. So to relate, because I said we some people. We come with our issues and things, and you still relate to us. I mean, how does that? Um,
Well, I think that my leadership style is I do lead with my heart. And so I treat people as people first. Um, And so I probably too have had some of the same experiences as a teacher that some of the teachers have. And so I'm able to kind of, again, create a conversation around what that may look like and offer some viable suggestions. Again, I think when you've walked the walk and people know, have seen your work or heard about your work, it helps people to really believe and trust that you're going to guide them in a way. But I treat people as people first, and then my job as the leader of the building uh, is really secondary. So people are people, and I deal with them because I do feel like if I don't have the best right of people, then they can't give the best to the children, and ultimately that's what we're all here for. So. Um, yeah, the work has really shifted a little bit versus like kind of the people that I were mentored by. The people that I were mentored by were really like managers. Then they kind of then you have the instructional leader, and so I feel like now like my position is I'm the instructional leader with a um a personal lens, right? Because everything I do is really about people, how they feel when they're in our space, how they interact with one another while they're in the space, and how all of that culture and climate stuff kind of really it really, when gelled together, it can make for a really really good school climate, or it can backfire and be very toxic in nature. And so I just try to lead, and I try to lead by example. So I won't ask you to do something that I will not indeed do myself. So like I work in the after school program on occasion when they can't get a sub, because I enjoy working with children. So I think that people know that I was a good teacher, or they can probably guess that I was a good teacher. I do know a little bit about curriculum instruction, probably a lot. Um, and so my experience, the way that I engage with professionals and anybody in the school community, I think all of that kind of gleams through in my conversation and my interactions. So I think that's very important. I want people to really know who I am, not only as the principal of the school, but who I am as a person, and kind of my values and things kind of seep through that in terms of how I operate it really on a daily basis. What you see is really what you get, and I hope it's okay. I hope it's okay.
And that is true, because I don't care. You can fake some things for a while. We actually absolutely can. But when you're interacting with people in through years, you're going to be who you are, and I can appreciate that, because I've been to not quite a few schools, been to a few schools, and I had different leaders, different leadership styles, different leaders, and you can actually get an idea of who the person is just dealing with them on a daily basis, even bringing questions to them and things like that. So that was what I was going to say. How do you create a culture where we feel supported? But you answered that absolutely, because of the fact that you've done it, and you are letting us see that you're in it with us.
Mhm.
I said a few weeks ago, you came in my classroom a few times, and you actually sat down and helped the students. So I'm like, yeah, I never had that before. But that works, because we need all hands on deck sometimes.
We do. And that's sometimes that's my sunshine. So to get out of all of this paperwork and stuff in the office, I gotta go find some sunshine. And normally the little people kind of serves it for me. So that's why you see me in the gym in the morning. I'm in the after school program. I'm just all over, just trying to, because we have to feed ourselves, and working with children really is some of the things that feed my soul, because it just genuinely is in me to want to help them to really be the best. So, I'm just all over the place, in the cafeteria, in the outside in recess, at Walmart, wherever I need to be. I'm always, in it. The kids are there. You just see them in, multiple contexts. And I just, that's the part I really, really love, because I love my school community, and I feel like they really love me back. And again,
Yeah,
that's really, we talk about, the making the withdrawals and the deposits. And so, this place really does both. I give a little bit, but sometimes, I get a lot, even if it's just a hug or a compliment. So it's like you reciprocal in terms of what my school community gives me, that keeps me coming back for more.
but that is true. When you're doing what you are meant to do, you're going to get joy out of it. If you're serving, most of the time, serving is how you get your joy. I mean, it's serving in that capacity that you should be in, because you could be serving at someplace you shouldn't be, and you're not going to be happy. You're not
Yeah.
going to have that joy. So I like that, and I like I said, you can have come into my classroom and sat down with students and helped or saw where the help was needed, what they actually needed. So with that, um, I know we have, I really don't like the word burnout. When I find out burnout, it's like you kind of stressed and we don't know how to deal with it, or we're have our focus in the wrong space. So that's what really burnout is. You're just didn't refocus to your joy, what gives you joy. So I know it's real. We say it's real, and we're sometimes we feel like we're running on empty. So how can you help an educator in that space who feels like they're in that space?
So we have been there before. I think it's important to listen. Um, I think that things are internal, and I think sometimes educators just internalize and personalize everything sometimes is always about them, and really listening to people and just helping them to stir their energy to a place where they can find, and again I say that sunshine, because we get down on ourselves, we feel unproductive, and we just can't do it anymore, and then there's one little thing that kind of flickers in us and helps us uh, to refocus. I think knowing yourself, and we talked, a lot about this, like in our staff meetings, about how we get to know ourselves and get to a place where we could say, we almost have to do a self check. Okay, I feel you getting to that place. And what are some of your strategies? My thing is sometimes I'll take a walk. So I'll go out of one of the doors in the building and just walk all the way around the building just to get some sunshine and some fresh air. Sometimes you have to remove yourself, but really finding those things that help you to reset. It may be a colleague, right? You may be a partner, not necessarily like a great partner, but it's somebody on the staff that really vibes with you. Like you've learned that you have a common interest. Um, it could be something like that, or just a thing that you need to do. I mean, sometimes I've had people come to the office and just say, "I just need a moment. Can I sit in that rocking chair?" I said, do I need to talk? No, I just want to sit here and rock, and I'm good with that. But I think people really knowing their boiling point, and even before they get to it, be self-checking. Am I in that red brain? Am I in that yellow? Like I live in the yellow, because I'm anything could tilt me either way. But how do you maintain the balance? And in this day and age with education, like self-preservation is probably the most important thing, because we have so many things to contend with in the education system. Lots of it that is beyond our control, but we're still in charge of the work and really trying to balance and navigate what that looks like and feels like, because it does feel very different than the 10 years when I was in the classroom. But we got to be good for us before we can be good to anybody else. So really knowing what things get you in that red brain, as we talk about, and then what are some of the things that can kind of work you back down to yellow and green, and find that sweet spot. Sometimes it's just like I say, talking to somebody, going outside, taking a walk, get in your car instead of staying in for lunch, go out for lunch. You might want to meet with some kids. Sometimes, again, I find my sunshine in listening to the kids or just chatting it up with them. But just knowing yourself enough to know these are some of the things. And again, like I said, some of the work we've been doing in Trenton around social emotional learning and trauma informed care is to really know who you are as a person and what your triggers are and how you can really reset. Because I mean, some people are in this for the long haul. I would hope, and we need people around. I'm on the tail end of my career, and I have not had to deal with some of the things like our younger teachers have to deal with, because they're right in the midst of the evolution. So I've had lots of years where things were like nice and peachy, and like the last couple of years are like, ugh. And so I've been able to kind of use that, but really just you have to find um, strategies to help you refocus, and also again to know when that tilt is happening, because you're gonna have to refocus and pivot, because you got to, again, at the end of the day, you still got kids in front of you. You have
Yeah.
them up down, but they still gonna be there when you come back. So you can come and sit in the rocking chair, but after your minute, I'll go cover the class, and and I've done, I'll go cover the class. When you're ready, we'll be waiting for you. And people are really appreciative of just the acknowledgement that they're human, and sometimes it just, they may get news about a family member. Anything can trigger an emotional response. Teachers are very emotional beings, so that's part of our work too. But you have to be able to allow for people to have those moments, because they're human. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. Sounds like we need a spa room or something like that.
yeah,
Uh,
but when are we going to ever have a chance to get in it? The concept
I
is
know.
good, but who would watch all the children? Because everybody would be in the spa room.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We just have to designate times.
Tag
Yeah,
team.
somehow. Lunchtime. Lunchtime. I don't mind. because I need peace and quiet at lunch. Yeah, that sounds good to me. You have some, is it eucalyptus or something like that?
We have toyed around with some ideas, a rocking chair, eucalyptus, some dim lights, and then we said, well, they not gonna want to leave. And again, we go, who's going to be with all the children? We're going to have a full assembly or something because we're going to have to round the teachers back.
Yeah, we will. We probably will forget time. I believe that might happen. Yeah, but that is something that we need to do for ourselves. That I'm planning to go maybe this weekend to a spa, to go to those saunas, to get some of those toxins out. Something I just need to do it.
Yeah, but if you're anything like me, I'm still thinking about work. So that's like my issue. How do I disconnect? Like, how do I just pull the plug? Some people are really good at it. That is one of the challenges that I'm not good at. I can't totally unplug myself from the work. I do have strategies where I don't do as much work at home, which has been helpful, but really trying to unplug is something that I really have to work on. So
I learned how to do that.
Yeah.
I did. I remember I was talking to you at the beginning of the year. You said, well, what's going on? Because I look different than I did last year. And it was because I learned I forgot I need to go back and start all over again. But for the first few months, I learned how to, you internalize it because you have a brain, you have a mind, you're thinking, but how to not take everything in. Because what I was taking in was things we were asked to do at the same time as I know some of that stuff is overwhelming, overwhelming the demographic that I have. So I had to learn how to say, I'm going to focus on what I need to focus on. And anything else is just, if I get there, I get there. Now I have to regroup right now, but we can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, I'm learning. I got some little strategies. Unplug for a little bit, but then Sunday I'll be like, whatever. I'm learning. My new, I have some new additions to my family, so my grandbabies are really helping me to unplug a little bit. But yeah, it is important. Like I said, self-preservation and this line of work is so important because you can get burnt out and frustrated and your spirit can be broken in some sense if you're not careful and you really get discouraged about the work rather than being in that position where, remember when you wanted to be a teacher and what all that was about. I want to rule the world. I want to help kids. And so you got to make sure that doesn't get diminished because of the whirlwind of things that we have going on has kind of taken over. So.
Yeah, I know I came in your class. You're off 5 times today. Like, really, like I did in my head, I was gone. But I learned because I love teaching. When I see a student who, I had a student who she didn't know her alphabet. And then I worked with her. I found Starfall, it teaches you the alphabet. And then next thing I know, she was spouting off those letters and giving me words for those letters. Mm-hmm. And I was so happy. I was just like, girl, you did that. And that brings you back. It really does bring you back. So with that, we have, our demographic in Trenton is changing where we have the ELL students, bilingual students. Some are not bilingual. We say bilingual. English language learners.
Bilingual, yeah.
Yeah. So how does that affect, I'm not even going to say, how do we approach that with not having enough teachers and still have to work with the students? I don't know, that's more of a higher level question, but in our building, we still see what we still need support from those people who speak those languages that we have. How can you help through that? Or
I think because it is really a new thing for us in terms of how drastically our demographics have changed. I'm not sure how we address it. I think the district has a position on how we feel we should address, and we're really like addressing sheer numbers at this point. We just have so many students that require services. ESL services, bilingual services, in addition to other services. And so, because of the shift in the demographics and it being so new, we have not been able to pinpoint, right? So right now what we're doing is we're exploring. So that's what the dual language immersion framework is really about. It's about instruction, but it also is really a way that we are trying to address the shortage of bilingual teachers, because these kids really do need their instruction in their first language, and we don't even have enough teachers to deliver that. So that dual language immersion framework that we have at least allows most of our kids who require a service to get some services, not even 100%, as you well know. So I think it's going to take, we definitely need human capital. We need teachers who are bilingual. That the whole notion of, them learning English and Spanish at the same time is a little bit difficult for me to grasp, because I'm like, you need to be good in something.
Yeah,
It seems like, and in our case, our kids are coming from other countries and they don't have a strength in either language. And how do we as educators kind of toggle between? And like, I'm of the school of thought, well, we should really address it in their first language. But if we don't have enough teachers to do that, then we're kind of left with trying to figure out an alternative. And so I think that we're kind of in alternative stage. I think that we need to be realistic around expectations, especially as students are learning a new language. When I think about when I was in like high school and had to learn Spanish and stuff, like I was a high school student, and so it was easier for me. But we're having kids really learn through immersion, and that's difficult again when they don't have the background. And I think like when you and I had our conversations, it was really around expectations and feeling like you've accomplished something with the student, right?
yeah,
So we have to know if it's a L1. These are just the things that they can do. We know what a second grader is supposed to do, but as an L1 learner, this is it. And to be okay with that, and then work to build scaffolds and supports just to help them to get better in the English language in your case. So I think really knowing who is in front of you and being realistic around your expectations, and not to say that you don't have high expectations or you're kind of dumbing things down. No, you know what you got in front of you. And
yeah,
so you have to work with what you have. And sometimes when you're used to teaching, a grade level, and you know where kids normally are, and these babies are so far behind because of the lack of language in education, it gets frustrating. So part of removing that frustration, say, listen, this is where they are. And I want to take them here. They're not going to be up here, but if I can get them to here, then, that'll be my sunshine. Like you talked about the baby with second grade, just learning her alphabet. To some people's like, just learn the alphabet. But from where she was, that's
yeah,
a huge accomplishment, and celebrating, right? What
yeah.
they do accomplish, because this is kind of our reality now. And I'm not sure where we're going to end up. It seems like we're all going to have to be bilingual at some point in order to feel productive in the work too. Because not being able to communicate with students, I would say even for me, is really a challenge. And then try to instruct them and teach and guide them in a language that they're not familiar with. I know from the classroom perspective has to be like huge. And in your case, or in our case, when we have DLI classrooms, that's double. You're talking about
Yeah.
25 kids, now you're talking about 50 kids.
Yeah.
So it's, again, I understand.
You said 50, 54.
54, sorry. And they're coming every day. And so
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
excited. But if I say, expectations lead to disappointments, we have to really be careful about what we're expecting based on what norm has been provided. We have to really take a look at who's in front of us and kind of work from there.
I like that, because sometimes we forget, like we are expecting this student has been in my class from, I don't care what language they speak, whether they're English language learners or they are English is their first language. You expect, I'm teaching second grade, by this point in the year, we should know how to we should be writing paragraphs, like that kind of stuff. And then we look at and we forget to look at the student
Mhm.
as an individual. I don't know. It's just something that we have to keep reminding ourselves. Well, let's go back to where he started or she started. I don't care, because this is not changing anytime soon, and it's not unique to Trenton. It's not.
Right.
It is. I can go to the district I live in. Demographics have changed. If you go to my grandkids' schools, you won't see many of us. You won't see many of us. You do, and then what do they expect from us? It's just a lot. So, yeah, that is something
that's actually ahead of the game in some cases in terms of just exploring how to instruct the students in the most efficient way. Like you said, there's some districts that are struggling to even find out what to do. So we're in a position where at least we have bilingual teachers. We're able to provide frameworks for students to get instruction in their first language, and I think that's a really huge step. I always say it's going to be a little wonky, and this is only our second year, and so within the next few years, hopefully we'll have it straightened out. If we can't get all the teachers, we'll have a model in place that really serves our students well.
Yeah, this toughens you up. I tell you that. If it doesn't, it's gonna break you down or toughen you up. One way,
Break
who
it
wants
down
to
or
do
build
that?
you up. Right.
You're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, the principal, I don't like sending students out of the classroom. Like I don't. I have different feelings. I feel like sometimes they have to be removed. So classroom management, there's some things. I have this coach per se. He used to be in the classroom. He's a principal, and he talks about classroom management. He teaches you like call and response, all kind of things that we should do up front that will make it easier. So how classroom management starts with culture, not just rules. So what kind of culture do we need to have, or what things do we need to have in place in order to have a nice, smooth environment where learning is taking place? Let me say that without sending everybody to the
principal's office. Well, I will say my office is not flooded with students, so that means that the teachers here are doing a really, really good job of maintaining their classrooms. I am of the firm belief if you send students out, you give up your power. There will be instances that you may have to, depending on the offense. But you want to try to handle it. We want to treat, I just had a conversation with one of the teachers today about this is your family, right? And you see yourself as the mother of your family. And so when there's issues, then you need to be able to deal with them in a family way. And so that really is really based in the premise of good relationships, right? We have to build relationships with our kids, just like our own personal kids. We know I have four, and four of them are very different. They require very different kinds of things, but because I know that, I'm able to deal with them in an effective way. So you really, really, really have to know your students, and that really is relationship building. We talk a lot about that, and if done the right way, it goes a long way. Now, will you have moments where they just got to go? Hey, I'm here. I'm here for that, because we talk about that preservation. I really don't want teachers to be trying to toughen it out, especially if the learning environment is at stake. I think we should work very hard to preserve our learning environment, because although that particular student may be having an issue, you got 26 others in the room that deserves a teacher that is present with them, that is showing up for them to do a job that they were to do. And we can't have one person upset that. So there may be times when students have to be sent in my office, or I may have to go up there, or around there to kind of help work through as a support. But I think primarily establishing the culture in your classroom, and classroom is, like you said, it's not just about rules. It's about how how it feels, what it sounds like, and relationship building is really kind of the basis for that. I can go into rooms and I can tell you immediately, oh, they have set the stage for the year. And will we have kids that try? Of course. And we will deal with them accordingly. But I will say, people who do the work up front really have a really good year. One of my mentors used to tell me, the way you start is the way you finish. And I always use that in our September bulletin, how we start our year, because the way you start will be the way you finish. And people who have done the work in that first 6 weeks, that important first 6 weeks of establishing relationships and routines and rituals, it's not perfect, but it is not off the rails. And we've created some systems in place so that if teachers need support with students, we know how to work that also without it being a whole big disruption. And again, hopefully the student has an opportunity to reset, to get back into the space where they can learn. But relationships is, you got to know your kids. Just like I have to know the kids, I have to know the staff, and I have to know the parents, because I will deal with them accordingly.
Yeah, I had a student who we were not made for each other. Like, we were not made for each other. And she was so upset with me, and she said I was a bad teacher. And I said, I'm not a bad teacher, right? Well, I don't care what you said. And then I had to think, like, well, what's the problem? Like, for real. And I was not meeting her needs. And that is absolutely, I was not. She had a problem reading. She knew she was struggling, and she didn't know how to express that. And then one day we were sitting, and she was like, I can't read. And I said, yeah, you can. Let's see. So I helped her. We got a book at her level. She couldn't read. No, you can't read a second grade book. We got a book at her level. She was reading, and I'm like, I thought you couldn't read. You're reading this. That was that's a paradigm shift. I don't know what it was. We shifted everything right then. Then we were working. She started taking homework home because it was at her level. It was totally at her level. And I was like, all this time?
You said it was the need that was fulfilled. And, talk about Maslow's hierarchy of need. Kids do need different things. And once you tap into that, you have them eat them out of the palm of your hand. But at that moment, then that whole notion of not caring, you demonstrated to her that you did. Like, all teachers are not, like, tell parents, all teachers are not going to be warm and fuzzy, right? You think some teachers are, and we have them here, are just about the business. And they know what is expected, and they want the best for their kids. And the warm and fuzzy is out the window. Then you have others that's over warm and fuzzy. And then you have some that just have a nice balance. And sometimes, even as the principal, I've had to make a decision and what was best for the kid. Not that the teacher did anything necessarily wrong, but it just was not a good fit. Some kids they can't produce when they're anxiety driven, and oh God, you're scared, and I don't know what this. Once they get comfortable, like I said, then you can't get them to stop talking. They want to eat lunch with you. They want to do all sorts of things. But there will be times where, I would have to switch a class just because of the personality. A need was just not being met. Not that it was anything negative against the teacher. It just didn't match.
Yeah, that was for me and this child 100%. I was not meeting her needs. Like, she was coming into the classroom without her needs getting met. She needed to learn how to read. She needed to know that she could read. She needed strategies. It was like, well, this is what we're working on. Come on, get it together. And she's like, I can't do that. And then that was it. And because you can't tell me that I'm a bad teacher, and I'm not going to say, okay, watch this. I want to prove it to you. And it wasn't even that. It was like, I found out I wasn't meeting her needs. That could be for anything. Like, that's what we have in math. We have manipulatives. Some students could just listen to you and they got it. And then some students, they need hands-on. And I see that. I have students who, if they can draw it, they can get every answer right. They can get every problem right. But if you just say, well, it's 5 plus 5, I don't know, they're counting. And they need those manipulatives.
Right.
That is something that I learned, and I'm learning. And it's crazy because every single, I know that's a word we don't want to keep figure out another word to say crazy, but every year is new. Every year is new. You think you had it. I told you that about me. I said, no, I knocked it out the box, right? I had this big challenge, a class full of English language learners, half of them could speak English, half of them couldn't. I knocked it out of the box. Then the next year I got the dual, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So
Right.
every year is new. How does that work with you? You see a teacher mastering something, and next year you see her falling apart. How does that? How do you go with that?
I try to build them up, right? I try to help them remember that you are a good teacher, right? Um, and that sometimes life throws you curveballs, and you have to just readjust. So you readjust, you figure out what works, and you make it work. You don't lose those strategies of what it is to be a great teacher. The only thing that has changed is the students that you serve. And so again, going back to your point about need, once you learn your students, then you're able to know how to make a meaningful impact with them. You just got to know, and it is, a confidence. Like with kids, you got to build up the confidence, like you could do this. And then when you start hitting those little sparks of sunshine, then you just kind of keep moving. Oh, that so it's like, the reward. I'm getting a reward. Perfect. That's working. I'm gonna keep doing more of that. I'm gonna keep doing more of that. And then you build your confidence. But um it's been my experience, like especially like with really good teachers, they always get the most challenging class. And I was one of those teachers. I'm never rewarded with a good class. They give me all the behavior problems, but I just worked with it. I knew I was a good teacher. Did I need a break? Yeah, but then I said, the kids really need me. And so there's a reason why the principal put them in my space. And so it's going to be my job to figure out how to best help them. Those were the kids that I liked the most, because they provided the challenge. And so you're going to, every year you're going to get different sets of kids. So you don't change. You are who you are. You just got to modify, adjust, and pivot, and find your sweet spot. Once you find your sweet spot, that's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I know just one little thing. I had a student who you have to, if you turn your head, he's into something. He's into something. He found out he's great at math. That he was great at math, and he's not great at math, but he was good with numbers. So
Mhm.
he started out using one particular strategy that was like hundreds chart. I got that, and then I tried to move him to something else. But after a while, he felt like he was really great at math. So then he was a better student. I mean, it didn't matter what I gave him to do. He was on task because
Right.
he had successes. And so that's something I think we need to remember about ourselves as our students.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing. I was going to say about principals and teachers. I worked at a school where everybody was on a first name basis. Everybody.
Mm.
And that was in Trenton. Everybody, I remember I met two guys, their name was almost the same. They introduced themselves the first day, and I was like, what? What was his name? I thought it was the same thing. If they introduced last names, it would have been different.
Right.
And then I went to the next school, everybody's just Branham. Like not Miss Branham, not Miss nothing, just Branham. And then I see now, I think we have in our school's like a mix.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that happens. Is that just something happens?
I think it's people's comfort level. I try to use handles simply because I want to model for the kids. I'm often afraid that kids follow the lead of adults, and then especially with the older kids. I did work in middle school I was a VP in middle school, and you give them an inch, they take a mile. So if they knew your name was Talaya or Ronnette, they would find a way to be able to use it. And so I think it's just really people's. So it depends on the comfort level of the people that you interact with. I try to use handles just to model for the kids, but I guess amongst yourselves, depending on what relationship you have, it'll be on like first name basis or just last name. But I personally like handles.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Even like a miss, or so like I'm in a sorority, and I had there's people that were my principals back in the day, and I still call the missus, and they was like, listen, we are colleagues now. You call me by first name. And I'm like, my grandmother would raise up from the dead and karate chop me if I was ever so disrespectful. So I guess it too has to do with like upbringing.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not addressed an adult. In my family, without a hand or auntie, even the cousins were aunties and uncles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that does. I don't call people by their first name around other students.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no students around, I
Yeah,
would
right,
say
right,
Zenaida or something like
right.
that.
So
Um,
it's
I
context.
just
Yeah,
I just do it, but I don't say that in front of students just because.
right.
So I don't know. One, I don't want to hold us along. So it just say you are to leave us with that leadership style, that principal teacher relationship, that school culture, some last words that you can offer an educator, based off of what you've learned over the years. Because, this is
Yes, yes.
every year is different and add something to our, to our,
I would definitely say, be who you are, right? Know who you are, and then show up to do what people have asked of you in terms of your work. Um, Again, self-awareness, self-reflection, all those things are very, very important in this day and age. But knowing who you are professionally and personally, I think greatly impacts your work. And when you're working with other individuals, whether they're adults or children, there are some things that you bring everything to the table, but you're going to have to learn how to discern and bring what benefits, right, you and your constituents, because not everything good ain't good for everybody, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So really being able to use the discernment to know what to use and when to use it, and really keep the students at the forefront. I know as an administrator, when I am struggling with making a decision, the thing that helps me the most is that I have to remember why I'm here, and it's really because of students. So it's always kids first, adults second and or third, but most importantly, just and remembering your why. Like you have to really just self-examine yourself and your work, because as at a certain point too, you may decide that this ain't it. And so if it's not it, do you stay because you need to, or do you move on because you have to? You know what I mean? So the
Yeah,
work is the work. The work is not going to change. And again, the reason why and our purpose is in the why. And once that diminishes, then you may have to reconsider what you do, especially if it has to do with children. So that's my little spiel.
yeah. Yeah, the work is the work. So it is. I had an episode. I don't want to mess up your ending. I had an episode. We talked about that. Is it time to leave or is it time to regroup? Go back to that why. Sometimes it is time to leave. I mean, people retire all the time, change careers. I changed careers. I didn't start as a teacher.
Right.
That's what I wanted to do, but I didn't start. I was kind of old coming.
Right. And the beauty of it is there's so many other ways to be impactful.
Hmm.
But where is it that you're going to be the best and be able to show up? Where's the best version of you going to show up? And
Yeah,
you just got to, again, it's all really about self-awareness. You got to know. You got to know, because if you don't know, then it just has like a ripple effect. You begin to suffer, the kids begin to suffer, the school community begins to suffer, all because somebody's miserable. Check the miserable. I always say, check yourself before you wreck
yeah.
yourself, right?
Yeah, if we have to watch who we hang around with, that community. That's a whole other episode.
Misery
But
loves
we talked to,
company. Misery loves company. And if you're not surrounded by like-minded people, you may need to revisit your circle.
yeah, yo, I gotta get a new circle. Not at school. I'm not talking about school. Just
No, I mean,
yeah, in
personally,
general.
professionally,
Huh?
sometimes there there used to be alignment, but there may not be
Yeah,
alignment. You mature and you grow, and
and
sometimes some people you got to leave behind. When they say reasons and seasons,
yeah, Absolutely. Or you grow in different ways, different directions. So that's a whole other episode right there. And that's real too, because I was going through some transitioning and yeah, like I said earlier, I had turned off my phone. I had to turn off my phone because it's not aligning and it's causing things like it's not aligning with where I'm going. So again, I want to thank you for agreeing, for being here, and this has been wonderful. Thank
I
you.
was nervous. I was nervous.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
So I appreciate the offer and the invitation. I really was nervous, as you know, but
I didn't know.
step out on faith a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't know
Yeah,
because I
but
did. I
but
couldn't
again,
tell.
when you think about it, though, when you are who you are, it just shows up. You just
Yeah,
show, and I want to think that I'm very authentic in who I am as a person, professionally and personally. So I
yeah.
thank you for having me have this moment.
You're welcome. And thank you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Share with another educator. I appreciate you all. Thank you, and have a blessed rest of your day.
All right, good night.
Subscribe to Educators with Oil podcast on your preferred platform and join Ronnette on this mission to empower teachers through the wisdom of the Bible. Because when biblical strategies meet the classroom, extraordinary teaching happens.
Educators, let's shine a light on our classrooms. See you on Educators with Oil podcast, where teaching and faith unite.